So, Scooby-Doo. Since the premiere of Where Are You, Scooby-Doo in 1969, the franchise has seen considerable success, cementing it as one of the most famous cartoons of all time and a staple in Warner Bros. Animation. With the new iterations and reboots constantly being churned out, each generation has their own version of Scooby-Doo that they've grown up with and become fond of. Me, for example, grew up on the Mystery Inc. show, and that is, in my opinion, the greatest depiction of Scooby-Doo of all time. But regardless, there's so many versions and shit. I'm just yapping now. I decided that I would watch all the Scooby-Doo direct-to-DVD movies. So that's 36 of them. And by the way, obviously, spoiler alert for the following films. Brief side note, I decided not to include the old ass movies like Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers and like Reluctant Werewolf, because those are so separate to the rest of Scooby-Doo canon that it would be unfair to critique them for the same agenda that I critique these films, and that goes for the same with the James Gunn live action movies.
Who's your mommy?
Because it's just an entirely separate thing that I can't judge for the same characteristics as I would judge one of these animated movies. I was talking about my idea to do this at school, and a girl asked me if I have a life. I'm now realizing why she said that. This is a classic and deserves to be held in the high regard that it is. I was pleasantly surprised by the unique shots. The writing is a bit campy, but the characters appear to have more depth here, seeing as the gang is older. They're more sort of like young adults, like 18 to 19 range. In some of the future movies, they dumb down the characters a lot, so it's nice to see the gang facing real challenges and dealing with them and like actually getting shit done, like not just facing some like corny bullshit. A while after the events of Where Are You, Scooby-Doo, everyone has almost moved on from solving mysteries. Shaggy and Scooby are basically unemployed, Velma is a librarian, and Daphne is a journalist, with Fred being her little sidekick. Daphne takes more of a lead role, as she is tired of all the suspects just being lame old people in a mask. She's looking for something a little more supernatural. The New Orleans setting is super spooky, which helps Zombie Island have some of the best horror in any Scooby-Doo movie. The zombie island in question, Moonscar Island, has a history of disappearances and eerie occurrences, which the gang finds out from Lena Dupree, who is employed by the owner of the residence, Simone Lenoir, a woman who is a bit of a bitch. We find out that the zombies are related to the curse of Morgan Moonscar, a pirate who left his treasure on the island. After some shenanigans, the gang is surrounded by zombies in what is one of the scariest scenes in Scooby-Doo. Velma discovers mechanical pieces, and Shaggy and Scooby notice that the zombies do not behave like true undead creatures. They are uncovered as mere robots. Get used to that plot twist, by the way, because anything that can't feasibly be someone in a mask is definitely going to be robots, drones, or like some sort of like mecha suit. And that's just like very, very standard, very common. So just keep that in your mind, The zombies were built by Lena and Simone to protect the island's treasure from visitors. And for some fucking reason, Lena and Simone turn out to be 300-year-old cat people. Like, there is nearly no clues to this in the movie, apart from the fact that Simone owns a lot of cats and there's a lot of cats in general on the island. But that doesn't tell you that these people are cursed cat people that have been living for hundreds of years. Like, I just did not see the connection there. But yeah, this reveal is kind of goofy. In my opinion, I would have preferred if they just found a logical way to explain zombies being real. Zombie Island? More like Cat People Island, am I right? The gang stops the curse and the cat people are graphically eviscerated. It's definitely a strong start for the new era of Scooby-Doo movies, and it definitely benefits from the darker tone and atmosphere. The only reason I don't have it any higher is because this is a super, like, standard Scooby, it set the bar for the others, and due to that, the plot is very basic, like, not like very out there as it gets in later movies. But yeah, 8 out of 10, classic Scooby-Doo. This one's going in A tier.
Double toilet trouble.
In my opinion, this is a considerable step down from Zombie Island. Definitely not a bad Scooby, just felt kinda empty. The Halloween vibes are definitely there, but the plotline is pretty basic and a little boring. Maybe it's because I was using HuroWatch, but the animation seemed a little bit like choppy and like kind of trash, but maybe that's my bad. The gang is invited by author Ben Ravencroft to his hometown of Oakhaven. The town itself is all old-timey and like pagan related. Ben tells everyone that his grandma was murked during the Salem witch trials, but who really cares when afterwards, for the first time, we meet the motherfucking Hex Girls.
Mix it up here in my little bowl. Say a few words and you lose control. I'm a Hex girl and I'm gonna put a spell on you.
These goth baddies who have a concert in town and become reoccurring staple characters in the Scooby-Doo cinematic universe. Their song goes hard as fuck. I wish they were real so they could put a curse on me. There's an old photo of Sarah Ravencroft with this book that Ben really wants for some not suspicious at all reason. The ghost of Sarah Ravencroft appears and starts flying around, throwing fireballs, being evil and stuff. You know, typical evil spirit activities. The gang suspects the mayor, so they follow him around. He does some weird, sketchy stuff around town, like any good political leader would. However, his weird behavior was actually just because they were using the legend of the witch's ghost to bring tourism into their sorry-ass town. Velma has a bit of a crush on Ben, so they help him find this old-ass book, and what a surprise. Ben actually is a bad guy.
Because it isn't, Velma. It's a spell book. You see, Sarah wasn't a Wiccan. She was indeed a witch.
Which I swear to God I knew after like 20 minutes of the movie. He uses the book to gain magical powers, summoning the ghost of his grandmother, but she immediately starts acting Hollywood and switches up on him, deciding she will take over the world herself. She does more evil magic shit before the gang defeats her, sending both Ben and her back into the book forever. The end climax is fun, and it's one of the only Scooby-Doo movies that the villain gets like actually punished. Half of them don't even get arrested, but in this one he gets dragged into the book, Princess and the Frog style. Big shout out to the Hex Girls. Mayor Corey also has his moments and works as a good red herring to throw off viewers that aren't as intellectual as I am. Now this is some peak Scooby-Doo. The soundtrack, the setting, the comedy, everything about this movie bangs. The way this movie starts just sets the tone so well and actually put a bit of fear into my soul. The gang drives to this small desert town in New Mexico that's known for UFO sightings. The pacing of this film is absolutely rapid. Normally the films like to deliberate and give us context on the location and the monster before the gang actually has an encounter. However, in this film, within the first 3 minutes, a UFO hovers above the mystery machine.
Hey, what's with this road?
And what's with that sound?
The use of sound develops the suspense in a brilliant way, making the moment a lot more shocking. The encounter causes them to crash the van, leaving all of them stranded in the desert. Shaggy and Scooby follow a jackalope into a cave to then be ambushed by aliens, and so a chase montage ensues, and in my opinion, it's one of the better chase scenes in the Scooby-Doo franchise.
She said don't get too attached and she got ties to me. You said you would die for her, but that's not what it is. Shawty haven't said she care for play far away. It's on my kid.
I just want to say I really fuck with the aliens designs in this movie. It is so iconic and it's the image I conjure in my mind when I think of like aliens. The gang meets the locals of town, including Lester, your typical crazy guy who swears he has had an alien encounter. He gives the gang a place to stay for a while they investigate the supernatural sightings. I can't remember why, but Shaggy and Scooby decide to sleep outside on the roof like dumb cunts and get abducted by the exact same aliens. They get experimented on and probably anally probed before they wake up in the middle of the desert. Shaggy, Rogers, and Scooby-Doo are awakened by Crystal and Amber in the middle of the desert. Crystal then offers Scooby and Shaggy a ride back into town, dropping them off at Sergio's diner, where Lester and the rest of the gang were. The playful romance between the two pairs is such a fun dynamic and made the movie a lot more entertaining.
And who was that girl?
Her name's Crystal. She's wonderful.
Will be a dream come true. She's even got a doggy for Scooby-Doo. How groovy, just us two, so groovy.
I won't recount the whole movie, but after typical Mystery Incorporated investigations and shenanigans, they discovered that the aliens were a team of government satellite workers who were trying to ward off any people coming too close to a gold mine they discovered. Yet there's another twist as well. Crystal and Amber are government agents from another planet. After helping the gang catch the culprits, they have to say goodbye and return home. But before that, Crystal and Shaggy share a kiss, which was like actually crazy to me. Like, I geeked out when this happened, because I didn't think they'd do that. Like, I thought these were like kids films. And it's also like I'm thinking about the fact that she's an alien. Hey, I'm not against anything like chat, y'all let me know down in the comments, are y'all against interterrestrial relationships, and why? Released in 2001, you can really tell they were trying to hop on the computer/internet bandwagon caused by films like The Matrix. The plot begins when the gang visits the university, where Velma's old college professor has created a new virtual reality game. While testing the game, a villainous character known as the Phantom Virus appears and starts causing havoc in the digital world. I think the Phantom Virus is a pretty unique monster. The design is clean. However, I would say it's definitely not a scary monster. He's more sort of like menacing, like physically threatening, which is weird because he's like a video game, a computer virus. Anyway, the gang gets put in the game where they must reach a box of Scooby snacks in order to advance to the next level. There are 10 levels in total, each of them being a different location. Level 1 is the moon, level 2 is ancient Rome, level 3 is a prehistoric jungle, level 4 is underwater, level 5 has the gang shrunk down in a backyard of some sort, level 6 is feudal Japan, level 7 is ancient Egypt, and level 8 is medieval times. Level 9 is in the North Pole, and at the very end, the gang are transported to Cyber City.
I think we're finally home.
Ah, no more monsters chasing us. Let's celebrate with some chow. Well. It might be a little early for a celebration, gang. Look.
Oh my!
Where they meet the in-game version of themselves and have to face monsters from their past to defeat the Phantom Virus. This movie is always moving from one thing to the next, but it does so in a way that makes sense for the story and isn't too bloated. I feel like it does lack that mystery element, as the only real clue is that both the Phantom Virus and Bill Miclemore like baseball, but I don't think that's what the creators of this Scooby-Doo film were really trying to achieve. It's just a sort of fun Scooby-Doo in a video game that they could easily tie in a video game piece of merchandise with, which they did, for easy cha-ching cha-ching. The conclusion is super creative, having both versions of the gang team up. Adding the monsters from Where Are You Scooby-Doo is a nice touch. Overall, it's an interesting Scooby, and it makes me want to make like a sort of Krypto coin. I would call it like Scooby Dogshit token and rug pull it. Do y'all think people would buy that? The gang are on vacation in my home country of Australia.
Found what I've been looking for. Bondi Beach.
What a Sheila! I'll say, mate.
Y'all like bodybuilders?
Bodybuilders? Yeah. I like skinny, scrawny guys.
How about multimillionaires? How about 8 inches and thick?
Where they decide to attend the Vampire Rock Music Festival in the Outback. However, I just could not lock in on this. I don't even know what it was. The legend of the Yowie Yahoo and the disappearances of some of the participating band members is enough for the gang to investigate. The Hex Girls are back in this movie, and as always, they are a highlight. The Aussie accents in this movie are kind of cheeks. The dialogue feels really like slow and forced in a way. This film is the first film into the What's New Scooby-Doo era, in which the Scooby-Doo franchise tilts towards a much lighter, more kid-friendly tone. And I think it's due to this that this movie really suffers, because you don't get those good mystery scenes, you don't get that dark, spooky vibe. It's just a whole lot of goofy shenanigans that would be played on something like Disney XD, and I'm just like not here for it. In terms of the monster itself, there was no real sense of danger or threat. However, I like the Rockstar inspired design, and the few scenes the Yowie Yahoo is in are a little bit scary. But the 3 fucking like goober mini vampires that are introduced later on in the film are goofy as fuck. Their only purpose is the chase scene with Shaggy and Scooby. Overall, an unfortunately disappointing start to the new era of films. A lackluster and uninspired Scooby-Doo movie that is almost unbearably boring. Putting it in like, this is low on the tier list.
Taco Tuesday!
Fred decides to do an in-real-life meetup with his pen pal, Aloha Otero, which takes the gang to Veracruz, Mexico. Aloha lets them stay at his lavish resort with oddball staff members like his brother Luis Otero and his fiancée Charlene, who works at the hotel restaurant. In nature of recent sightings and abductions, they get wrapped up in the case of the Chupacabra, making its first appearance to the gang at the Day of the Dead festival. They all go around the area finding various clues like big ass footprints and underground tunnels with various props and costumes. There's this like really strange 6-minute section where the gang go to like a theme park / museum thing, and they have to fight off these robots, and they get put in the cage, and the other tourists at the location also get mad at them. It doesn't tie into the like main plot at all, and I think it stands out a lot, and you can tell like they're just trying to hit that like hour and 10-minute runtime, you feel me? Chupacabra itself has some scary scenes, and it has a good presence throughout the movie, but then, you know, it's same old. Fred sets up a trap, they catch the Chupacabra, and it's revealed the culprits are Mr. Smiley, the amusement park owner, and his little sidekick. However, there's a double unmasking. The sidekick woman is actually Charlene, the waitress from the diner. Overall, pretty cheeky Scooby with, I'd say, a slightly unbalanced ratio, having a bit more shenanigans than mystery solving, yet still a goofy adventure with a little too many stereotypes and jokes about the language barrier. 6 out of 10, so this one's in like high C tier. Yeah, I think that's good. In my opinion, definitely one of the peaks of the What's New Scooby-Doo era. Daphne's cousin, Shannon Blake, asks the gang for help after her boat was attacked by the Loch Ness Monster, and invites them to stay at the aptly named Blake Castle. The opening spook is great, and it only continues on from there. Coincidentally, the town festival is going on during the gang's stay.
That's the sports field for the Highland Games, a competition featuring traditional Scottish sporting events.
This allows for the gang to meet everyone and start a suspects list. Characters like Del Chilman, who is a mystery-crazed Loch Ness fan, who definitely smokes weed in the back of his van. Professor Fiona Pembroke, a cryptozoologist obsessed with proving the Loch Ness Monster is real. And Sir Ian Loxley, a wealthy businessman and sponsor of the Highland Games, who is more of a Nessie naysayer and hates the idea of it all. This movie has some great horror elements compared to the recent entries. Shaggy and Scooby's first chase scene with the monster was brilliant. There was a use of 3D animation that really put in place the scale of things. Like dead ass, I'll edit in the clip of this scene, like it actually looks like something from out of Attack on Titan, and I was like so geeked, I was just like,
No, pal, it'll take more than a rainstorm to dampen our spirits, huh?
Behind you, what do you see?
Through their investigating, the gang has suspicions that there are multiple Nessies and they may be mechanical in some way. They craft a big-ass multi-step trap using sonar to lure in the various Loch Ness monsters, revealing 3 in total. One of them being a costume with stilts and shit, one of them being a remote-controlled robot, and one of them being like a Pacific Rim type of vehicle that was driven by Professor Pembroke. Overall, a great Scooby with surprisingly good horror, and the monster itself is really iconic, and the story respects that. They keep the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster unsolved. You know, they don't actually say if it's real or not. And I like it a lot, you know, set in Scotland. Yes, this is like a 7 out of 10 Scooby. I'm feeling this is like A tier, B tier, yeah.
Someday you wish upon a star, wake up with...
Daphne wins a vacation to Honolulu, Hawaii for 4 people and 1 dog. Once they arrive, they learn about the sacred surf competition, which occurs every year, from one of the contestants, Manu, and his girlfriend Snooki. The only other character of note is Molly Quinn, who is the mayor of Honolulu and is hoping for more tourism to the island. The particular villain for this film is the Wiki Tiki. I think it does just a fine job. There are also these little robot minion things that don't really do much. There's very little scare factor in this film, but that's mostly in part to the setting it takes place in, as, yeah, you don't really, when you think of Hawaii, you don't really think of, like chattering your teeth and quivering to your boots in fear, like, because it's just not. Again, there's some fun beach-related shenanigans, you know, like burying the gang, like Daphne showing off surfing, shit like that. But, yeah. The gang unmasks the Wiki Tiki, revealing Manu and his girlfriend Snooki, which I thought was incredibly predictable. Overall, a lack of depth to the Scooby-Doo movie, so I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, slapping it right in C tier. I remember watching this as a child, and I think for good reason. Definitely one of the more jam-packed Scooby-Doos in terms of plot elements. Slightly darker and more adventurous Scooby-Doo film. The movie starts with explaining the ancient curse of Cleopatra.
In the year 41 BCE, as the Roman army invaded Egypt, I, Cleopatra, last of the pharaohs, escaped upon the river Nile. My kingdom had fallen, yet I was still Egypt's queen. Vowing to defend the ancient treasure of my people, I sailed for the pyramids. There, beneath the Great Sphinx, lay a hidden tomb. An impenetrable maze of deadly traps and secret dangers, forever guarded by an ancient horror. The army of the undead. 1,000 mummified warriors awaiting the call to rise from the grave and defend Egypt's last great treasure. Under the golden crown of Isis, I cast my curse. The curse of Cleopatra! Let it be written!
Obviously, the movie takes place in Egypt, with the gang heading there to link up with Velma, who has a job as some sort of archaeologist. What I like is that the whole film takes place exclusively either inside or in the general vicinity of the pyramids. This keeps things moving pretty quickly. The gang splits up a lot. I prefer it when they are still within relatively close proximity, as there are some movies where the members of the gang are not even in the same country, and it just looks like they're doing like the OG Four Corners challenge. Like, it completely halts the plot. And I know it's cliche for like Scooby-Doo, come on gang, let's split up.
We better split up, gang. Daphne and I will...
hell no. You're just trying to f Daphne again.
No, I'm not. Velma, shut your frumpy ass up.
Okay, if we split up, I'm going with you then.
No, your musky ass is not.
Oh, you can't throw nobody else on the team, no?
But like when they are all so far away from each other doing their own thing, makes the plot feel really disconnected, and the narrative does not flow as easily. Anyway, during the restoration of the Sphinx, Velma discovers a secret chamber believed to be the tomb of Cleopatra. Velma, the fucking geek, decides that an ancient curse is not going to stop her, and she opens the tomb. Due to the news of the tomb being uncovered, a bunch of new characters get involved trying to find the rumored treasure in Cleopatra's ruins. Apart from the monster, there is another antagonist in the film in the form of Dr. Amelia von Butch and her team of looters. Velma discovers the necklace of Cleopatra, however, shortly after she encounters the mummy, turning her to stone. After the gang race around the pyramids looking for clues running from the mummy and a weird interaction with the cult, there are lots of plot lines that nicely convene together in the final act of the movie. The major twist is revealed that Velma was actually the one orchestrating the supposed curse of Cleopatra, and this was in an effort to ward off the people who were looking for treasure and ensure the preservation of the historical site. Also, Amelia von Butch is buried forever under rubble and will die down there. The movie glosses over that pretty quickly though. It's Indiana Jones type of Scooby. 7 out of 10. This one's also going into A tier. Fred's parents invite the gang to come on a mystery cruise. Seeing Fred's parents in this movie was a good addition, as they are pretty well thought out characters with their own quirky moments. The whole irony of the mystery cruise is that they solve the first stage mystery and decide to go along with the rest to entertain the guests. So when they do meet the real ghost pirates, they believe it's all a part of the cruise's gimmick. As the cruise sails further into the Bermuda Triangle, more weird shit happens and the pirates attack the cruise more and more. The gang finds some clues deciphering that the pirates are seeking old painting of the night sky. I feel like due to the fact that they're all stuck on a cruise for essentially the whole movie, the movie is a little bit repetitive in terms of formula. There are some cool shots, especially when the pirates are coming out of the water, which is probably the best part of the movie. For most of it, it's just the same cycle of finding clues, pirates attack, the gang evades them somehow, rinse, repeat. Overall, cool idea for a Scooby-Doo movie, but it just doesn't have enough going on that makes it stand out in any way. So 4 out of 10 Scooby, this is going to be on the lower side of this tier list, maybe like low C tier, D tier.
I gotta go away.
Baby, it's cold outside.
This evening.
I love a good snow setting more than anything. You know, Christmas movies are always a good way to bring me some joy. But this Scooby-Doo fumbles this setting so horribly and does almost nothing good with it. This Scooby suffers from being almost a little bit too chill. I mentioned that I don't like when the gang is too far split up. Yeah, well, this movie starts with Shaggy and Scooby dropping out of an airplane into the Nepalese mountains and the rest of the gang are in Paris. Shaggy and Scooby are rescued from the snow by monster hunter Alphonse Lafleur, and he tells them of the Yeti. The rest of the gang drives from Paris to the Himalayas in almost less than a day to try and find their friends. The gang is reunited in Pikey Village, where we meet Professor Jeffrey, who's looking to discover the Yeti and push the boundaries of science. Minga and Pemba are just these random-ass siblings. However, Del Chillman makes a much-awaited return, as his hyperfixation has shifted from the Loch Ness monster to the abominable snowman. He lives in a reclusive radio station in the mountains. Del's goal is to record the sound of the Yeti for his 3-4 listeners. It's okay, Del, I know how you feel. I need to get this off my chest. In any Scooby-Doo movie that takes place in the mountains, there's way too many scenes with fucking avalanches. And it always ends with the characters like running all goofy and shit down the mountain with a big snowball behind them. And it's enough of it, honestly. We've seen enough. After a few Yeti attacks, the gang finds hints that the Yeti is fake, such as a Yeti fursuit and fake tunnels in the mountains. Whoop-dee, who would have thought it was the dumbass uni professor who was obsessed with proving the Yeti was real. I watched this with my friends and I felt like just nearly nothing happened the whole movie. Apart from Del Chillman, the characters are really forgettable and have very little impact on the story. This is kind of a boring Scooby-Dooby-Doo to end the What's New Scooby era. This is going to be a 3 out of 10. This one's going in D tier, unfortunately. Scooby-Doo Halloween Special, sign me up. This film is filled to the brim with that juicy cartoon spooky goodness, and there is a real step up from the previous films in scale of story and what's at stake for the characters. After a night at the Coolsville Halloween Fair, the gang decides to watch the amazing Krudsky perform some stage magic. However, it's promptly ruined by Shaggy and Scooby exposing his act as a fake and exposing him as a fraud. Krudsky shakes his fist at those meddling kids and goes backstage to give an angry monologue about how he wishes he had real powers. He reveals that he could obtain powers if he could only retrieve the Goblin King's scepter, when by some magical chance he catches a fairy.
Fable, fawn, fang face, yes, fairy. If a mortal catches a fairy on Halloween, the fairy's magic can be stolen using the following spell.
Part of the reason I like this movie so much is because it really leans into those supernatural, like, monster elements. I think they nail the sort of vibe of, like, why everything in Scooby-Doo is so spooky. It's, like, one of the best Halloween movies you can watch, like, deadass. It seems to divide the Scooby-Doo community, as these movies directly acknowledge supernatural activity, just like Zombie Island and Witch's Ghost. This sort of disrupts the timeline and stops this movie from conveniently being placed in any timeline. Anyway, Krudsky uses a spell to steal the fairy's powers and begins his journey to find the Goblin Scepter. We meet back with Shaggy and Scooby after a grandiose night of trick-or-treating as they approach their final house of the night. The movie only gets more magical from here, which is a major disconnect compared to the recent movies in which everything is explained by people in masks. In my opinion, to lean into the fantasy aspects helps the movie actually feel like a new thing for the gang. More supernatural elements allows for a flexible plot that isn't bound by everything needing answers. Shaggy and Scooby's final house for the night is Mr. Gibble's magic shop. Instead of getting any candy, Mr. Gibble shows Shaggy and Scooby a prophecy of the rest of the gang being turned into monsters by midnight. Through some more magical shit, they're given like temporary monster disguises, and they take a train to the spirit world in a really cool scene. The whole movie revolves around Shaggy and Scooby venturing around the spirit world, doing what they can to save their friends. There's plenty of memorable moments, and it kept me entertained for the whole runtime, filled with that lovely Halloween nostalgia. But yeah, perfect Halloween special. The goblins are one of my favorite parts of this movie. Goblin Oogie Boogie, the song, it actually bangs. It slaps. Top 3 Scooby-Doo song of all time, probably.
Goblin Oogie Boogie. It's the biggest night of the year. Goblin Oogie Boogie. Baby, Halloween is here.
But yeah, Scooby-Doo and the Goblin King, that's a solid A tier for me. This movie was unfortunately the last time Casey Kasem graced us with his voice talents for Shaggy. The gang head to Tokyo for Daphne's martial arts tournament. The character of Daphne in general has always been a bit of a question mark in what her actual role with the gang is. Everyone knows Velma's the smarts, Fred's the sort of motivational leader, and Shaggy and Scooby are the comic relief. So Daphne's role is constantly changing from writer to writer. But in this movie, she's a martial arts girl boss. I was intrigued by the concept, but this movie just ties up way too quickly. It doesn't know if it wants to be a martial arts movie or like a spy movie almost. I wouldn't say it's hard to follow. It just you just didn't want to follow it. You didn't want to chase it. Like, it's super twisted and dumb. This is a real stinker jammed in between two of the best Scooby-Doos of all time. Do the Samurai sucks ass as a song, by the way.
You can learn to dance if you only try. Come on, girls, don't be shy. Everybody's doing the samurai.
At its best, it's boring, and at its worst, it's kind of racist. So this movie gets a 2 out of 10. This one's going like E tier. Scooby-Doo Abracadabra-Doo is the first movie in what I consider the golden age pre-modern animated movies. And boy oh boy do I really love this movie. The new animation style is goated and really goes hand in hand with the more adult themes to make a refreshing generation of Scooby-Doo films. The tone and overall vibe of the movie is much darker and more mature. This is maintained to differing levels of success throughout the next few films, but this does really contribute to why this is my favorite era of Scooby-Doo movies. The gang sets out to visit Velma's sister, Madeline, at the Whirlin' Merlin Magic Academy, which is trying really hard to be Hogwarts. On the way, they stop at a creepy roadside inn, where they first hear rumors about a griffin terrorizing the magic school. Madeline has a massive crush on Shaggy for some reason, I don't know why.
Hi, Shaggy.
The gang is also introduced to the academy staff, including Headmaster Whirlin' Merlin, and a bunch of other quirky characters, like his brother Marlin Merlin, who is the technician behind all the magic that goes on at the school. There's also Calvin Curdles, who is a real estate agent who desperately wants to buy the property that the school is based on. There's your standard creepy groundskeeper. I don't really know if this counts as a character, but in this movie and sort of like the next 3, 4, 5, the GPS in the mystery machine is just always talking shit, and it's actually kind of funny. Like, when you're watching the movie, it says some shit, like, it gets some good moments.
I'm not sure about the mystery machine's new GPS, Fred.
Where'd you get your license? From a hobo? I know. Isn't it awesome?
I'm not even gonna hold you, like, the Jeeps is one of the funniest bits in these movies. The mystery in this one is complicated and unravels in a way that makes for a great overall viewing experience. There are plenty of action scenes that kept me entertained, as well as horror elements that gave me quite the fright. At the beginning of the final act, Madeline gets kidnapped in such a shocking scene for a Scooby-Doo movie. I expected the Griffin to be somewhat of a lame villain, but it made its mark on the movie, really raising the adrenaline factor. In particular, I think about the noise the Griffin made. That shrill shriek actually made me shit myself. On top of that, there is a secondary monster in the form of the Banshee. However, the Banshee is really only a minor obstacle and a quick scare before the gang goes on to solve the mystery. The culprit behind it all was Marlon Merlin, using his stagehand skills to get his older brother to sell the property. This is one of the only times I feel bad for a Scooby-Doo villain. He was tired of being in his brother's shadow and didn't mean to hurt anyone. Overall, Bippity Boppity Boo Scooby-Doo, 10 out of 10. This one is firmly in A tier. Maybe the best Scooby-Doo movie of all time, ?
And this one time, at band camp, I stuck a flute in my pussy.
Director Ethan Spalding and producer Alan Burnett both have a profound impact on the creative direction within this generation of Scooby-Doo. Both of them working on iconic animated Batman projects such as Batman the Killing Joke, Batman Under the Red Hood, and Batman Beyond, to name a few. The darker tone and atmosphere creates a Scooby-Doo product that focuses more on the mystery and horror elements than the shenanigans and lame jokes. Camp Scare is another one of my favorites. After the opening spook, we meet with the gang while they shop at Camp City, preparing for the trip at Fred's old summer camp, Camp Little Moose. As his old camp counselor Bert needed volunteer counselors, the main complication arises when all around the local area, Camp Little Moose folk legends are returning. A whopping 3 monsters appear over the 77-minute runtime, all essentially sharing the same amount of screen time. The Woodsman, a Friday the 13th style slasher and my personal favourite villain out of the 3. The Fishman, a half-man, half-fish thing, and the Spectre of Shadow Canyon, who is a ghost/like spirit thing, which resides in the canyon near the camp. Besides the monsters, the gang also has to deal with the horrors of raising teenagers. Due to the Woodsman's return, Counselor Burt has cancelled camp for the summer. However, 3 unfortunate teenagers still show up. Luke, Trudy, and Deacon are your stereotypical teenagers. You got the sporty one who tries way too hard, the smart emo one, and the fat one. Fred is determined to still give these kids an authentic Little Moose experience. Fred has this nostalgia-fueled obsession with the Camp Little Moose spirit, which drives his actions and motivates him throughout the whole film. The dialogue is as funny as Scooby-Doo can be while still being corny and enjoyable. All it takes is some fun camp activities and some lewd fanfare that goes on for way too long.
Got it, you got it, summertime.
And then everyone's a big happy family. Whole time, the 3 monsters have been terrorizing the camps. Velma decides that they should see the store owner from Camp City again. He tells them that Big Moose Lake used to be Moose Creek, a small town. Gangster Ricky LaRue hid his treasure there and told his partner Babyface Beretti where it was. A dam was later built and the town was flooded. After finding dynamite near the dam, the gang conclude that the culprit wants to use the dynamite to blow the dam and find the treasure. But they want to clear Camp Little Moose out first. They go to tell the others, who explain that the woodsman wrecked the camp and didn't find them, so he thinks it's fine to blow up the dam. The dam does indeed blow, and the group narrowly escape in the mystery machine. Then, they search Moose Creek for the treasure. Deacon appears, revealing himself as Babyface Beretti before he and the woodsman vanish, but the fishman attacks. The gang catch it and unmask it as the woodsman, who is Knudsen. Obviously, he and Beretti were looking for the treasure of Ricky LaRue. Scooby catches Deacon, aka Babyface Beretti. Having it be Deacon, I can't lie, I did not expect that to be the twist. Thought that was pretty good. It tricked me, man. Very campy Scooby-Doo movie. You see what I did there? 9 out of 10. This one's also going in S tier. After everything the gang has been through, Shaggy gets diagnosed with PTSD, therefore is not allowed to do anything remotely spooky or scary, or the least bit fright-inducing. Due to this, the gang is stumped on what they can actually do together now that unmasking monsters is out of the question. Wanting to avoid anything scary, they take the drive to a remote town for the La Serena Spa. Shaggy receives hypnotherapy treatment from Dr. Hubley. If the word bad is said out loud near Shaggy, he loses all cowardly tendencies. This is deadass what created the old Shaggy 1% power meme. when that word is said to him, this guy will do shit you can't even begin to believe. However, Dr. Hubley is not the most reliable doctor, as during the treatment, he forgets the trigger word. In terms of the monster's design, I think this is much more bland than previous movies. It's literally just a dinosaur that glows, okay. In my opinion, the scenes with the Phantosaur are the weaker scenes of the film. There is also a trash-ass romance between Velma and an archaeologist student named Windsor. This is the biggest fucking waste of time. The dynamic between the two only works because they're both nerdy as fuck, but it's just so annoying. It's so annoying the whole time. Anyway, while the gang are getting a tour of the dig from Professor Frankmeyer, I don't like saying that, Shaggy is feeling smooth and relaxed enough on their vacation, just in time for the Phantosaur to show up and cause Shaggy to pass out completely due to fright. Afterwards, the gang comb over the site for clues. However, Velma is too infatuated with bitch-ass Windsor, causing her to miss vital information. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Shaggy and Scooby are at an all-you-can-eat again. Their rude table manners get the attention of a large gang of bikies. Frizz, the lead biker, says something
This is gonna be bad.
triggering the hypnostasis. He fights the whole bar 20v1 on some demon timing, and this is a recurring gimmick throughout the whole movie. The gang are attacked by more dinosaurs and a fire-breathing Phantosaur and learn that it was Professor Frankmeyer and Windsor, much to Velma's dismay. Their motive being to protect and profit off the whole-ass dinosaur that was somehow frozen in time within the dig site. 7 out of 10, this one goes B tier, low B tier. As the title suggests, this is the first and only Scooby-Doo musical movie. I say first and only because I do not count Scooby-Doo Stage Fright as a musical. There's a key difference between a movie with lots of music and a musical. It's only a musical if the characters randomly burst out into a song about their emotions. However, I have observed and appreciated the amazing use of music within Scooby-Doo media throughout the generations. Even from the original Where Are You Scooby-Doo theme song, the music within these have always been a joy. These movies have real original bangers in them that go way underappreciated. That being said, I think this movie's music is, okay. Definitely nothing to shout home about. This is the problem with musicals in general, and the reason why musicals are sort of segregated when it comes to discussing film. Obviously, a major part of the musical is the music. Therefore, when a song is happening every 10 to 20 minutes and these songs are a whole lot of ass, no matter how compelling the story is, the songs will feel like needless interruptions and therefore ruin the viewer's experience. Back to Scooby-Doo. The gang attend a vampire-themed music festival, during which an apparently real vampire chooses Daphne for his bride. Bayou? Yes, you are right. This is the second movie that takes place in New Orleans. The whole reason they go in the first place is because Shaggy was sick of monsters again. And again, the only thing Shaggy got was more monsters. 10 songs in an hour and 19 minutes means more than one song every 10 minutes. The first song, Done With Monsters, actually slaps just a little bit. The gang harmonize in the Mystery Machine, glowing with anticipation for their vacation.
Lift your hand up high, let it wave goodbye to them gremlins and monsters galore.
Tell them all we're gone, 'cause we're moving on, and we ain't coming back anymore.
Unfortunately, it's the best song in the movie and the rest are forgettable. At the music festival, Daphne befriends Bram, the leader of the acting troupe's cult, Frankencreepy. This cult then attempts to resurrect an actual vampire named Lord Valdronia, who wants Daphne for his bride.
Rise and call to the night, from earth to the stars and all that's between. Beware and behold the vampire queen.
Gang rescue her and reveal that the vampire is some bum-ass old dude, all the while they sing and they dance. Sing along Scooby-Doo 5 out of 10, this one is going in C tier. I really hoped this movie would have a clown-based monster, seeing as the whole movie revolves around the circus aesthetic. Instead, the writers chose a werewolf. It makes no sense to me. Mystery Inc. legit did a clown villain as well, it's not that hard. In this mystery, the gang goes undercover with the Brain Koozie traveling circus after reports surface of a mysterious werewolf attacking the audience, stealing jewelry and transforming performers into werewolves. As the investigation unfolds, tensions rise within the group, especially between Shaggy and Scooby. When Shaggy begins taking credit for Scooby's impressive circus talents, putting their friendship to the test. This movie still holds up though. The rest of the circus group are written well enough to keep the movie fun. Archambault, the circus group's sturdy strongman in particular, gave me a chuckle. In the same way, the mystery gang feels more filled out and like real characters. The dialogue is dynamic and natural, which is needed for a movie that's gonna fuck with Shaggy and Scooby's friendship. The film actually puts a lot of emotion into these silly characters and keeps the audience invested in the film. The first act is so slow, but as the film gets closer to the climax, there are some really fun scenes, and the reveal is one I actually didn't expect. There's this random side character, Wolfric von Ridingsvad, who does literally nothing the entire movie and serves no purpose other than to piss me off. God, this could have been amazing if they just made it a killer clown. It could have been so scary, it could have been so good, but no, it's a dumb werewolf. It's a fun enough idea, but the movie struggles in some sense with the pacing and direction of the film. It seems like a hodgepodge of ideas that could have been something special, but falls a little bit short. 6 out of 10. This one could have been great, but it's getting put in C tier. If you're like me, you had no idea who the Blue Falcon is. It's another Hanna-Barbera IP. He's the other half of the superhero duo from the TV series Dynomutt Dog Wonder, which premiered in 1977. The gang heads to the Megamondo Pop Comic-Con-a-Palooza, where Shaggy and Scooby are hoping to win a costume contest dressed up as their favorite heroes. However, the convention is attacked by the Blue Falcon's nemesis, Mr. Hyde. Wanting to be like their heroes, Shaggy and Scooby take the lead on this case. I see this movie as Scooby-Doo's attempt at the superhero genre. The film overall is more oriented and similar to the grandiose battles in something like a Marvel movie, yet it still keeps its lighthearted and goofy tone. Mr. Hyde attacks multiple times through the use of wolves and slime, as Shaggy and Scooby get publicly embarrassed by their inability to solve the case. Technically, this isn't a crossover film, as all the characters besides the Mystery Gang are viewed as pieces of fiction that also exist in the Scooby-Doo universe. So this isn't a crossover, it's more of a reference, as the characters we meet isn't the canonical Blue Falcon, but Owen Garrison, a sad, washed-up actor who played him. Mr. Hyde makes a giant robot of himself, planning to interrupt the premiere of the new Blue Falcon movie, but Scooby steps in with some help from Owen Garrison to take down the big bad. Cool concepts, jam-packed with Easter eggs, but it's a bit of Hanna-Barbera slop that feels a little forced. 4.5 out of 10. This is a solid C tier Scooby-Doo.
And I need you now tonight, and I need you more than ever.
Somehow, Fred and Daphne are finalists in the contest Talent Star, taking the gang to Chicago.
Hey, does anyone want to come over to my house and— Oh, I forgot! You can't come to my house, because no one can ever come to my house, because I live in a middle place, between world and time! I'm just kidding, guys. I live in the old city of Chicago. On
the way there, Velma tells the gang that the Chicago Opera House is haunted by some sort of phantom. Once they arrive, we meet all the other finalists. Chrissy Damon, a bratty child star. Emma Gale is another singer, except she's nice and she needs the prize money if her family wants to keep their farm. The great Paul Dini, your standard shitty magician. Waldo is a ventriloquist with Napoleon syndrome. Gurlosaurus Rex is an all-female dinosaur-themed rock band, and finally, Lot Laveau is a scary singer/diva. On top of that, there's Brick Pimento, the director of the Talent Star, and his annoying ass assistant, Dewey. The gang hears a scream in Christie's room and panic ensues. Later on, we find out that it was a happy scream, as the Phantom told Chrissy she was going to win the talent show. One by one, each of the contestants is sabotaged by the Phantom. Lot's throat spray is swapped with a chemical irritant, Waldo's puppet is set on fire, and Gurlosaurus Rex's instruments are broken. Not wanting to risk their safety, contestants start retiring from the competition. Velma looks at the security footage and sees the Phantom can be in multiple places at once. The Fred and Daphne romance is cranked to the max in this movie. I think this is the most layered and best portrayal of the romance in any modern media.
You're obviously not fine, Daphne. Why don't you tell me about it?
I'm in love with Fred.
Through a trapdoor in the closet, the gang reaches the sewers beneath the opera house. Following the sound of an organ, they find the Phantom. As the Phantom concludes his performance, he reveals that he has spent his entire life hiding his face in the sewers. He unmasks and the gang tells him that he looks just fine. The man looks in a funhouse mirror and is embarrassed by the appearance of his reflection, but he feels even more embarrassed after seeing himself in Daphne's compact mirror. He identifies himself as Steve Trilby, and they ask him about the Phantom's activities, but he tells them that he was only in the closet to get to the vending machine. In one of the darkest scenes in Scooby-Doo history, the great Paul Dini is discovered tangled in his harness. Another Phantom is seen on the catwalk setting fire to a curtain. Fred rushes to stop him and a fight starts. Steve comes to Fred's rescue as they unmask the Phantom as Mel Richmond, the owner of the opera house who wanted the insurance money. They ask Mel about everything else as they hand him over to the police. He denies harming the contestants, saying the other Phantom just gave him the idea to wear the costume. At that moment, the lights go out and the Phantom appears on stage, stating that if Christy doesn't win, everyone will die. The show starts with Chrissy, however, backstage her father is caught in the Phantom costume trying to steal Emma's violin. Fred and Daphne go on stage to perform their heartfelt ballad. Meanwhile, Shaggy and Scooby follow their suspicion about Dewey, after finding a magazine about the nearby soap diamond in his office. They rush out to find Dewey stealing the diamond, however, Scooby gets the jewel back. Dewey goes crazy trying to retrieve the diamond, nearly killing Scooby. Back at the talent show, the votes are tallied, and Emma, Fred, and Daphne are all tied, leading to an encore to determine the victor. The gang is given a police escort back to the opera house, and they arrive just as Emma finishes her song. But when told they had to do another song, Fred didn't prepare for anything else. But Daphne reveals to him that she wrote some lyrics for the song he wrote. The lyrics confess Daphne's love for Fred, and they share a kiss at the end of the performance. The votes are tallied and Fred and Daphne win. As Brick is congratulating them, they play security footage revealing him as the last Phantom. Emma gets given the money for her parents' farm, and the gang goes on with their next adventure. 8 out of 10, Scooby-Doo stage fright. I think it's about middle of A tier.
Oh, he fucking fell!
Have you ever said to yourself, I really want to see a crossover between the WWE and Scooby-Doo? No? Well, this movie came out anyway. Scooby and Shaggy beat the hardest level in the WWE video game, winning them an all-access trip to WWE City for WrestleMania. Yes, I just said WWE City. That is the real location that this takes place at. I'm just curious about what are the imports and the exports of WWE City, how's the economy, stuff like that. That's what confuses me. Late at night in their cabin, Shaggy and Scooby are attacked by the monster, Vince McMahon, as he tries to sexually assault them. I'm just joking. The actual villain is the Ghost Bear. John Cena and Sin Cara tell the group that the Ghost Bear mythology began more than a century ago, when a wrestling bear named Vicious was vanquished at what would become WWE City by Sin Cara Grande, Sin Cara's great-great-great-grandfather. The bear's soul has been roused by the modern WrestleMania, according to Sin Cara. The following morning, Miss Richards informs the group that the WWE belt has been taken, and Scooby is seen wearing it around his waist. However, Velma proves that Scooby was in a deep state of hypnosis caused by the WWE video game. During the climax, Velma pieces it all together, revealing that the WWE Championship belt is actually a hidden EMP device. But just as the gang realizes the belt is a decoy, the real device activates with only 30 seconds on the clock. Cena rushes to dispose of it, but he's too late. The EMP goes off, disabling the underground power generator and plunging everything into chaos. The bear attacks the stadium, getting into the cage with all the wrestlers. With everyone's help, they pin the monster down for Scooby to finish it with a belly bomb off the top rope. While it is a strange crossover, there's a lot of fun to be had in this film. I'm not even a WWE fan, but you can't tell me this isn't the coolest shit you've ever seen. I can acknowledge that half of this film feels like an advertisement for WWE, but there are still a lot of memorable moments that put a smile on my face. Grab his nuts and twist him, Scooby. 7 out of 10, this one's going in B tier. When Velma inherits a castle in Transylvania, Pennsylvania, the gang heads down to check it out. Unfortunately, a masked figure blows up the mystery machine.
Jeepers, Fred, what?
I know every sound the mystery machine makes, and that is not one of them. Everybody, down!
and tells the gang to stay away, but they just decide to take the train. Again, this masked figure, who looks like MF Doom, hijacks the train in an effort to stop them from reaching Transylvania. The gang arrives nonetheless. After some more ominous warnings telling them to stay away, they finally arrive at the castle. The film takes a deep dive into Velma's character, giving her a lot of screen time, which is welcome after the 21 movies focused on Shaggy and Scooby. The animation beautifully complements the setting, making for an atmosphere filled with that spooky goodness. Velma's family has a supposed curse on them after the great-great-grandfather made the original Frankenstein, causing the villagers to go a little bit wild and break into his house and kill him. At the castle, the gang is welcomed by Miss Vanders, the housekeeper and a really funny character. Mrs. Vanders leads the gang into the Baron's hidden laboratory, where they see the Frankencreepy frozen in a block of ice. Velma remains skeptical, convinced the creature is a hoax, determined to expose the truth. She decides to follow the Baron's own notes in an attempt to replicate the conditions that supposedly brought the monster to life. The gang heads out to town, leaving Velma alone in the castle. Miss Vanders uses this opportunity and one of the Baron's inventions to hypnotize her. Daphne's search for a new outfit takes her to a clothing shop run by a gypsy woman. She spots a cute dress and asks to try it in a small size, but the saleswoman insists she needs a large. Skeptical, Daphne reluctantly accepts it, only to be stunned when it fits perfectly. Looking in the mirror, she's confronted by a surprising realization. She's gained weight and her hair is now frizzy and unkempt. I just want to say, I thought, the Daphne unattractive, the Daphne fat jokes in this movie are kind of in bad taste. I feel like there's a lot more they could have done other than just, let's make Daphne ugly, that'll be super funny. And because she's not even, chopped, which is what's crazy, they just made her a bit chubby and shit. Anyway. Meanwhile, Fred is still reeling from the destruction of the Mystery Machine. Everywhere he looks at the festival, it reminds him of his beloved van. While wandering around, he runs into Shaggy and Scooby, who have unintentionally upset the locals by turning down a celebratory sausage simply because they were already full. The gang returns to find a completely different Velma, with tall wild hair, a slinky, vampy outfit, and a maniacal gleam in her eye. To everyone's astonishment, Velma announces that she can actually bring the Frankencreepy monster back to life. Shaggy is quick to point out her usual skepticism towards anything supernatural, but Velma firmly insists that this isn't magic, it's science. As she instructs her assistant, Iago, to begin the procedure, tensions rise outside the castle. A crowd of angry townspeople has gathered, demanding entry. When Velma refuses to open the gates, they begin forcefully ramming the door. Velma reveals she's planning to remove Shaggy and Scooby's brains and put them inside the monsters. She also calls Daphne a fat ass. However, Shaggy and Scooby chew through their leather bindings and run away. The Frankencreepy chases after them but knocks a lever in the process, hypnotizing Velma back to normal. Daphne finds herself in a hall of mirrors where the distorted reflections force her to confront her altered appearance, now morbidly obese and disheveled. Overwhelmed, she shatters one of the mirrors in frustration, accidentally uncovering a hidden passage. Behind it stands MF Doom again, the very figure responsible for blowing up the Mystery Machine. Fred has his own breakthrough when he stumbles into a dusty old tool storage room. He hears Daphne's scream echo throughout the halls and rushes to help her. He bursts onto the scene armed with improvised gear. The masked Baron taunts Fred, mocking the loss of the Mystery Machine, but with Daphne urging him to stand up and avenge his beloved van, Fred rises to the challenge and a fight ensues, causing the tunnels beneath the castle to collapse, leaving Fred and Daphne buried beneath the rubble. They try and dig free but begin losing oxygen. Now, I know Scooby-Doo is for children, but this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in any movie ever. In the caves, Daphne rips her dress, realizing that she's actually been wearing an inflatable suit this whole time, which is the cause of the weight gain. What the fuck? She uses the air inside to keep her and Fred alive, digging out, finding Shaggy and Scooby. The four of them are quickly found by Velma, who explains that a natural gas deposit beneath the castle is seeping inside and they have to escape. Fred signals for a horse and wagon, outfitted to resemble the Mystery Machine, and the gang makes a swift exit just as the creeping gas reaches an open flame. The gas-filled castle erupts in a massive explosion, lighting up the sky for the entire town to see. The mystery wraps up and multiple people are unmasked to reveal villains from the gang's past who are seeking revenge, trying to take away everything they love. Fred's van, Daphne's beauty, Shaggy and Scooby's appetite, and Velma's skepticism, I guess. But Velma contradicts them, saying, Actually, we love each other the most. Doesn't that bring a little tear to your eye? Stylistically speaking, this is quite a unique film out of the bunch. The wacky sound design and recurring quick match cuts set Frankencreepy apart from the others. The premise is interesting enough, but as the movie progresses, the plot just gets more and more twisted and hard to believe. There's some really stupid plot conveniences that stop this movie from being top tier. But Goth Mummy Velma brings it up a couple notches. 7 out of 10. This is A tier. Could have been S tier if the writing didn't kind of suck. Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, Fred, Daphne, and Velma win a lottery for the last 5 seats on a cruise into space billionaire Sly Star 1. This film is essentially Scooby-Doo meets aliens. While waiting to board the spaceship, the gang meets Shannon Lucas, who explains how their spacesuits work. She immediately builds a friendship with Daphne, which annoys Velma for whatever reason. Daphne agrees to leave the others behind when Shannon begs her to join her at the bridge for liftoff. Velma is left with another astronaut, Ridley. Yes, just like Ridley Scott. While looking for the snack bar, Shaggy and Scooby hear something on the outside of the ship. Believing it to be space junk, they ignore the noise and continue with their fatassery. Outside the ship, an alien silently opens the maintenance hatch and tears out a cluster of wires. Inside, Daphne hears the distant clatter echoing from the engine room. Zip brushes it off, assuring her it's nothing. Still, Daphne can't shake the feeling that something, or someone, is out there. When she suggests it might be an alien, both Zip and Colt scoff. They don't believe in aliens. But before the conversation can go any further, a loud alarm blares through the ship, cutting the tension, and sending everyone racing towards the bridge. On the bridge, Shannon delivers grim news. The ship is rapidly losing air. Something has damaged the external tank. Shaggy and Scooby speak up, saying they saw something outside, something that looked like an alien. At first, the claim seems unbelievable until they review the security footage. There is the alien tearing into the tank, and now the situation is critical. Oxygen is running out fast and there's no chance of making it back to Earth in time. They fly to the dark side of the moon, where they arrive at the secret base, the Sly Moon Prime Resort. Although it's not complete, he explains that the air generators are working, making it safe to take off their helmets. Throughout the rest of the film, the alien appears and attacks different members of the crew. Shaggy and Scooby have a fantastical dance scene in low gravity, which I really liked. I think the sci-fi horror works pretty well, considering it's a kids movie. I love the fact that the monster is basically a xenomorph, which contributes a lot to the fear factor. However, in the final 30 minutes of the movie, nearly nothing relevant happens and the plot stays stuck for a while. The space vibes are nice, but overall it's a lot of style and not much substance. I want to see a face hugger attack someone or something, and to be honest, at this point in time, I can't even remember who ended up being the alien. If you thought the WrestleMania crossover was dumb, oh boy, are you in for a bad time. Jesus Christ, I don't even know why this movie was made. Let me preface this by saying I am not at all a Kiss fan. Those freaking motherfuckers always have their tongues out and kinda creep me out. This movie takes place at the fictional theme park, Kiss World. When the gang arrives at the theme park, they are told to leave by the head of security, Delilah Domino, who is closing the park due to the Crimson Witch attacks. Despite Domino's warning, the gang decides to take matters into their own hands and sneak into the park to get to the bottom of the mystery. Once inside, they cross paths with Kiss, along with McGoo and Goldman. Tensions rise as the Kiss team, protective of their ongoing investigation, is reluctant to let a group of amateurs interfere. But then, Starchild steps in. He reveals that his star eye, a mysterious power, has shown him a glimpse of the future. In it, the Scooby Gang plays a vital role. Later, Shaggy and Scooby are chased by the Crimson Witch while trying out the rides at Kiss World.
It's Kiss!
This is what I mean when I say this movie is full of stupid bullshit. Like, that makes no sense. I'm all for a bit of supernatural fun, but this crosses the line. The particular MacGuffin within this film is the Rock of Kisteria, a black diamond that the witch is after so she can abuse the power of rock and roll and free a thing called the Destroyer. However, the only thing stopping her is Kiss, who protect the rock with their powers. Again, more dumb bullshit. Fred and Daphne team up with Starchild to investigate the area where the Crimson Witch had previously chased Shaggy and Scooby. While examining the scene, Fred carefully collects a sample of the strange smoke that the witch left behind. Meanwhile, Daphne makes a surprising discovery, a hidden trapdoor tucked beneath the ride. It leads to a series of secret tunnels sprawling beneath the park. On the other side of the park, Shaggy and Scooby are helping Catman set up for the concert since the demon refused to spend time with them. Catman sends them under the stage to collect some props when they are attacked by the Crimson Witch. After regrouping with Kiss to review a list of possible suspects, the gang hatches a classic Scooby-Doo plan. Set a trap using the Rock of Kisteria and a reluctant Shaggy and Scooby as bait. They lure the Crimson Witch into the setup, the plan works, and they manage to capture her. When they move in to take off the mask, the reveal takes a terrifying turn. Beneath the hood isn't a disguise, but a haunting ghoulish face that lets out a chilling scream. She's only down for a moment before she rises and rips a hole in space, using her ethereal scythe, and escapes with Shaggy, Scooby, and the Rock of Kisteria into the Kisteria dimension. Kiss uses their powers to open a portal into the dimension to the theme of I Was Made for Lovin' You, and chase after the witch. This is the only Kiss song I know, and it's low-key a tune, and I low-key enjoyed the scene, but that doesn't mean I'll forgive this movie for its sins. The witch heads off with the diamond to free the Destroyer. He's like the rock and roll equivalent of like Galactus or something. Velma comes up with the bold idea. If rock and roll once defeated the Destroyer, maybe it can do it again. The solution? Kiss must perform their Halloween concert. This time not just for the fans, but to unleash the full power of their music. Back at the park, Kiss takes stage and begins performing Detroit Rock City, channeling their energy to battle the Destroyer. The plan works. The Scooby Gang, caught in the chaos, tumbles from a swirling portal in the sky, landing safely in the middle of the crowd. When the gang regains consciousness, they set one final trap for the Crimson Witch. This time they succeeded. The mask comes off, revealing the true culprit, Delilah Domino. She had been using hallucinogenic gas and advanced flight tech left over from her old defense job to create the illusion of supernatural events. Her goal? To steal the Rock of Kisteria and sell it to a rival defense contractor to weaponize it in her laser systems. That's cool and all, but it doesn't really explain how she went into the dimension of Kisteria and how she throws lasers out of her hands, but whatever. After this movie, I want to kiss the end of a 12-gauge shotgun. If you're going to do a musical collaboration, do it with like Drake or someone popping, not trash ass Kiss. This is like a 3.5 out of 10. This one's going in like D tier. Almost as if the WWE and Warner Brothers had a 2-movie contract but only planned for one, this film was born. For some reason, it was decided that the second best concept they could come up with for a WWE crossover is a racing movie. There's really not much in terms of story. During the races, a demon named Inferno appears and tries to wreck the wrestlers and their cars. Instead of John Cena headlining, we have The Undertaker, and there are some cool little pop culture moments referencing his career. The race scenes make up a hefty portion of this movie, and it's just such a departure from the standard Scooby-Doo formula that this movie feels nothing like the others. During the races, the film just cuts between Shaggy and Scooby in the car with The Undertaker, and then the rest of the gang in the stands making commentary. In a film that's supposed to be as high octane as this one, I found myself just waiting for it to be over. This gets a 2.8 out of 10. Also D tier.
I'd like me a splash of whiskey to wash the trail dust off in my gullet and keep my singing.
The Mystery Inc. gang heads to Sorghum City, a dusty tourist town steeped in Western lore, to visit Shaggy's cousin Tawny at her struggling dude ranch. But their plans for relaxation quickly unravel when the ghost of Dapper Jack, a legendary outlaw, appears, riding through the town, firing off eerie green flames and scaring the guests. With the ranch's future in jeopardy, the gang jumps into action. As they investigate, they meet a colourful cast of characters. Tawny's family and guests, including Buddy G, a famous internet star with a fear of horses, and he reminds me of Jack Doherty, kind of.
Oh! Oh! No! 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 Bro, my whole fucking car, bro.
Tensions run high as Dapperjack continues his attacks, and Shaggy, who bears a striking resemblance to the outlaw, is mistaken for the ghost himself. Along the way, the gang uncovers strange clues, mysterious green powders, stolen historical records, hidden tunnels, and signs of high-tech trickery. At the same time, this classic Scooby-Doo antics unfold: wild horse chases, net mishaps, rodeo stunts, and Velma's ongoing battle with her horse allergy. Eventually, the gang exposes the truth. The haunting was a hoax. Kyle, one of the cowboys, has been using advanced flight tech, UV powder, and stagecraft to fake the ghost. His accomplice, Rafe, Tawny's cousin, who was just trying to scare everyone away and buy up the land cheaply to sell it to a company planning a Dapperjack-themed resort. But the mystery doesn't just reveal a scam, it rewrites history. Velma discovers that Dapperjack was framed and murdered by the town's celebrated sheriff. In a final showdown, Shaggy rides the wild horse Buckstitch to stop Rafe's escape, and Buddy G overcomes his fear to help save the day. With the villains caught and the ranch saved, the true story of Dapperjack is finally restored. As the gang drives off into the sunset, Shaggy and Scooby spot the real spirit of Dapperjack watching from a ridge. He gives them a quiet nod of thanks before disappearing. They decide to pretend they didn't see anything. All round, good movie. The character of Buddy G gives me a migraine, and his song at the end sucks.
I wanna live life like a cowboy. The city life has been no good for me. I wanna live life like a cowboy. Riding in the setting sun and living free.
But overall, it's a nice take on the Western genre with a rewarding plot and interesting background on Shaggy's character, who develops into somewhat of a hero by the end of the film. Scooby-Doo hasn't really done the Western genre yet until now, and I think it was a pretty entertaining take on that. All the characters have good moments, especially Shaggy. As soon as I started this movie, I knew it was going to be one of my favorites. I must admit, I am a Batman dick rider through and through, and firmly believe that he is one of the best characters in all of fiction. Not to mention, Batman Brave and the Bold is the version of Batman that I personally grew up watching. It all culminates for just a film that I like a whole lot. The film begins with Mystery Inc. being recognized for their detective skills and getting inducted into the Mystery Analysts of Gotham, a team of super sleuths, including Martian Manhunter, Detective Chimp, Batman, and The Question, and now the Mystery Gang. Things take a serious turn when a ghostly villain named the Crimson Cloak attacks and steals dangerous radioactive materials. Batman reveals the threat is linked to his only unsolved case, a failed teleportation experiment that seemingly killed a man named Leo Scarlet. As Mystery Inc. and Batman dig deeper, they're framed for the thefts, forcing them to flee both villains and their fellow analysts. Along the way, they confront classic Gotham rogues like the Joker, Penguin, and Catwoman. They discover that the real mastermind is the Riddler, who had disguised himself as the Question and manipulated events from within. With the help of Batman, Aquaman, and the real Question, Mystery Inc. stops the teleporter from destroying Gotham, defeats the villains, and rescues Leo, who is not dead but trapped in a dimensional void. Batman thanks the gang for solving the case that haunted him for years, solidifying their place among Gotham's greatest detectives. There are so many good things about this movie, especially if you're a DC fan. That's part of the reason I'm not talking about it that much, because I genuinely want someone to go and watch this movie and enjoy it like I did. The list of iconic DC characters that are in this movie is extensive. Like, you wouldn't think they show as many as they do, but like somehow they do. I love the way Gotham looks in this. The background buildings have such a simple yet clean look, but the colors still really pop, giving everything that nice look. I would say even if you don't like Scooby-Doo but you like Batman, it's worth the watch. Genuine 10 out of 10 banger. This one's going in S tier. The writers must have come up with the idea for this movie for the sheer purpose of Shaggy and Scooby being the biggest fat asses possible. Continuing with the crossover elements, Bobby Flay makes an appearance as the head chef at the Rocky Harbor Culinary Resort. And also, he's apparently Fred's uncle. Bobby gives them a quick tour, including showing off Rocky, an artificial intelligence assistant who controls all the appliances at the resort. Originally, the hotel was owned by Edward Flay, who mysteriously disappeared during the American Revolution, while apparently screaming, "Red Ghost, Red Ghost." The inn has been vacant since, until Bobby Flay took over. Shaggy and Scooby put Bobby's skills to the test as he cooks them every meal imaginable. Later that night, during a barbecue, Shaggy says he feels the ghost's presence, but Velma tells him it's all just a myth. In my opinion, the red ghost is the scariest monster out of all the films. I know like the villain in the Kiss movie was like the red witch bitch or something, and the villain in Batman is the Crimson Cloak, and the villain in this is the red ghost. Clearly, the writers need some new food for thought, as they've come up with essentially the same monster in 3 movies in a row. But whatever. What they do with the lighting and the sound in this movie for the monster is what makes it so terrifying. Whenever it's hiding, it makes this shushing noise that really creeped me out. The films that are almost entirely shenanigans tend to suffer in terms of narrative structure. Where this movie excels while others fall short is even in the scenes where just Shaggy and Scooby being chased by the monster, it's still intense and not just goofy. There are a lot of scenes of the gang just chowing down. It veers a little into filler territory, but it's forgivable. During their stay at the culinary resort, Bobby Flay hosts a televised cooking show, like MasterChef or something like that. During the filming of the show, all the electrics go haywire and Rocky malfunctions, ruining the production. Bobby needs the show to be a success or he has to sell the inn. So the gang knuckle down and start looking for clues. They find bits of evidence that narrow down their suspects. The mystery itself unfolds with well-balanced pacing, gradually layering clues and suspense in a way that keeps viewers engaged without overwhelming them. All builds up nicely for the reveal at the end. This movie will make you hungry though. 7.5 out of 10. This is a solid A-tier Scooby-Doo movie. The next 3 movies serve as like a trilogy / the first 2 are sequels of previous beloved Scooby-Doo content, which I'll get into. It's sort of like a weird timeline mishap. A lot of people who enjoy the originals don't like these at all, which makes sense. A major reason is due to producer Jim Krieg's involvement in these films, as he made the decision not to include any supernatural elements, which was part of the reason that made the originals, i.e. Zombie Island, 13 Ghosts, so good and such classics. So
Good defense there by Eric Gordon and James Harden with the capper. What a game here in Madison.
It's a well-known fact that this movie and the next one are not well received at all within the Scooby-Doo community. The film serves as the supposed finale for the 80s show Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13 Ghosts. Many fans were waiting for this as the ending of the series felt quite unnatural. Now the movie was expected to finally give them that closure. I hadn't seen the show as I was not born in the Stone Age. I had no emotional connection or awareness of the previous context going into this, but they do a decent job filling the audience in. The first scene shows us Asmodeus, the 13th ghost, attacking a young Vincent Van Ghoul and his partner for the chest of curses. Vincent's friend sacrifices himself so that one of them can escape with the chest. What I do like about this movie is that it starts with the gang getting a mystery wrong and straight up just harassing like a random old dude.
Why was he running?
I'm afraid of teenagers.
Hold the phone. You mean we were wrong?
The term is criminally negligent.
The town sheriff pulls up and calls them out for being criminally negligent and too old to keep chasing silly mysteries. He orders them to stop, effectively putting the mystery gang into retirement. The next day, they have a garage sale in which they sell all their paraphernalia, including the mystery machine. In an old box, they find a glowing orb that Vincent used to send them a message, begging for help with capturing Amadeus. When Fred and Velma inquire about what is going on, Daphne fills them in on her 13 Ghosts mysteries with Shaggy and Scooby, while Fred and Velma were away from the gang. Daphne changes into her old clothes and unveils her high-tech van, the Mystery Machine. On their way to rescue Vincent, they are tailed and nearly wrecked by a phantom vehicle with no driver. Upon their arrival, the gang meets Bernie Allen, who asks about a crystal ball he saw at a garage sale. Suspicious, Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby and Van Ghoul follow him, but are soon attacked by the phantom car again. It revs its engine and triggers an avalanche. Van Ghoul tells the gang he can no longer use his magic powers, and the 4 end up crashing into a mysterious temple. Meanwhile, Fred and Velma explore a seemingly abandoned village post office, where they run into a now-grown Flim-Flam, who tries to sell them his chest of demons merchandise and ghost-catching gear. As they leave the shop, they are suddenly abducted by an unknown force even Velma can't explain. Fred and Velma are suddenly dropped off right outside the temple. Plain and simple, I thought this was lazy writing. I'll play a clip for it in the video, but this, like, it's so dumb. When you watch it back, it is so fucking dumb. Like, this shit just happens for no reason.
Let me tell you, if something was trying to nab us, I'm pretty sure we'd...
Velma? Velma?
Just as Asmodeus is about to attack Shaggy and Scooby, Vincent breaks his orb, transporting Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby outside the temple with the others, but leaving Vincent and the chest behind. Velma makes the return to Flim Flam's store and ends up taking all of his ghost hunting gear and asking for his help. Meanwhile, Shaggy, Scooby, and Daphne sneak into the castle to rescue Van Ghoul. The group eventually reunites with Fred, Velma, and Flim Flam. Flim Flam unexpectedly brings up Scrappy, momentarily puzzling the gang. As they venture deeper into the castle, they find Van Ghoul already defeated. He reveals that Asmodeus is actually the demon form of his own magically gifted ancestor, Asimard Van Ghoul, and admits that the looming disaster is all his fault. Asmodeus manages to open the chest of demons, something Velma insists should be impossible as only a living person can do so. When he tries to flee, Daphne intercepts him, who is then unmasked as Mortifer, Van Ghoul's friend from the beginning of the movie. He reveals that he faked his death using an illusion to deceive Van Ghoul. Mortifer admits his plan was to sell the chest to Flim Flam for $10 million. A spectral vision of the real Asmodeus and Asimard briefly appears before the gang. Velma explains that the real Asmodeus had been watching over Van Ghoul all along and has finally found redemption. However, she later admits that she made up the story to give Van Ghoul some peace of mind. Velma goes on to suggest that the 12 ghosts were likely hallucinations brought on by the thin Himalayan air. This 5-minute scene retcons nearly everything in the original 13 Ghosts. I think as a standalone film, this would be just okay. But if you think about it as like a supposed finale for the series final, this shit is so trash. Like, I can see that if you're a fan of 13 Ghosts, this would completely disappoint you. And it only gets worse from here with the next movie. This is a 4.7 out of 10. This is C tier. Out of the sequel trilogy, this movie is by far the worst. It was a mandate from Warner Brothers themselves, who simply hired people to write under their influence and supervision, and it's not instead some passion project of a writer who actually loves this franchise. Originally, the intent behind this project wasn't to serve as great sequels, but instead return to the setting and play around with the idea. Like I said earlier, the studio opted for no supernatural elements, which clashes with the whole premise of the first Zombie Island, a direct continuation of the previous movie, but there are major continuity problems within this movie. The opening credits recap the events of the first Zombie Island film. The opening credits recap the events of the first movie with some cool visuals. And it got me excited for what I thought was going to be a nice, faithful adaptation. Inside a diner, the gang discusses a possible mystery for them to solve, but Shaggy and Scooby refuse after always being bait for the traps.
Raise your right hands and swear.
That's a menu.
Oh, they know.
Repeat after me. We solemnly swear to not solve any more mysteries, man.
We solemnly swear to not solve any more mysteries, man.
To be honest, this is understandable from Shaggy and Scooby being sick of their lives at risk, but in the previous film they did the same sort of retired mystery gang shtick, and so it has no impact the second time around. The gang watches a TV show hosted by Elvira, who surprises everyone by announcing Shaggy as the winner of a tropical vacation. Conveniently, Shaggy can bring 3 friends and 1 dog along with him. They travel through the obviously not tropical Bayou River and end up at Moonstar Island Resort. Something fishy is going on here. While Shaggy and Scooby are enjoying the resort, they stumble upon a few zombies in the spa and immediately flee in terror. They hide inside a cabinet, only to end up in an underground cavern filled with cat statues and ancient monuments. After making their way back to the hotel, the two barricade the door as more zombies approach, leaving Fred, Daphne, and Velma free to resume their mystery solving. As the gang sets a trap, a clawed figure resembling a black cat creature knocks over a candelabra, igniting a curtain. The resulting smoke triggers the sprinkler system, which extinguishes the fire and causes the zombies' faces to melt away, revealing them to be disguised staff members. The gang soon realizes that they're actually on Moonscar Island.
What?
now repurposed as a film set, and that Alan is the director behind a horror movie being shot there. I think the movie could have been fine if it just ended here. However, it keeps going on and just undoing everything that happened in the first one. The cat creatures return and begin giving our characters a hard time. They snatch Alan's chain, which ends up being Simone's magic pendant from the first movie. They use it to find treasure somehow, and the gang, disguised as zombies, ambush the cat creatures, startling them into retreating and hiding in a nearby hole. Once cornered, the gang unmasks the three figures, revealing them to be the greeters and fairy captain. As for this supposed treasure, the gold coins in the chest are revealed to be gold-covered Scooby snacks, and the sheriff stops by to tell the gang they can go back to solving mysteries. That is deadass how the movie ends. Just like the one before it, there is no soul in these Scooby-Doo movies. They just meander about, not really doing anything unique for the narrative or characters. The studio fumbles the heritage of the originals with these cash-grabby, soulless adaptations. 2 out of 10, this one's going in... This one goes D tier as well. I'm sorry.
The Jack-o'-lantern, the chocolate ice.
Happy Halloween, Scooby-Doo. The final film in this so-called trilogy. However, this one does not revolve around destroying a once beloved movie already. Therefore, in my opinion, it's the best out of the three. There's still some weird things going on with this one. The film starts us right in the middle of the Halloween parade in Crystal Cove. Simultaneously, the gang is enacting a trap for a villain. Elvira returns as well, which I don't mind. I think she has some funny moments. They unexplainably got the mystery machine back, and Daphne's eyes are black again instead of being purple like the previous movies. Now, I'm sure you're thinking they're just trying to catch some irrelevant ass bum villain like they do at the start of every Scooby-Doo movie, you know, just your standard, like, nothing out of the ordinary here. But no, their goal is to catch the Scarecrow. Yes, the Scarecrow from Batman. He attacks the parade with fear gas drones, but Velma stops him by hacking into them, disabling them, and pinning the Scarecrow against a tree. Recently escaped from Arkham Asylum, Daphne tries to coax Crane into saying the classic meddling kid's line, but he refuses, smugly claiming he's actually getting away with it. Just then, a swarm of yellow drones armed with canisters of fear gas emerge from nearby buildings, sending the crowd into a panic. Before the gas can spread, Shaggy and Scooby spring into action, launching Halloween candy at the drones, causing them to explode mid-air. Crane watches in horror as his fear-fueled plan crumbles. The crowd hails Mystery Inc. as heroes, and a celebration breaks out, until the sheriff shuts it all down, declaring the area a federal crime scene. With the mystery thought to be wrapped up, Shaggy and Scooby head off trick-or-treating. They pass towards the pumpkin patch when they see one of Dr. Crane's drones having somewhat of a breakdown. They notice a truck full of toxic waste leading into the pumpkin patch. Suddenly, one of the pumpkins touching the toxic waste grows a face and comes to life. Many pumpkins begin to do the same, including a ginormous one, which begins stalking towards Shaggy and Scooby. Meanwhile, the gang is cleaning up the scene, but they get a call from someone. Is it A, Shaggy and Scooby, B, Elvira, C, the Scarecrow, or D, ruthless dictator Kim Jong-un? If you guessed any of those, you're wrong. Such a stupid guess when it's obviously Bill Nye the Science Guy.
That just makes no fucking sense.
He called them to tell them that he bought them a gift. A package flies in from the sky and transforms into the Mystery Machine X, a white, modern, electric version of the Mystery Machine. When they go inside, Bill Nye pops up as a hologram, who tells them that he will only be able to guide them when they are in the car. These weird crossover elements don't directly take away from the plot, but they definitely don't add anything and feel really out of place. Like, why the fuck is Bill Nye the Science Guy in this movie? He literally has no reason. Shaggy and Scooby return to the others, all panicked and scared, telling them about the apparent jack-o'-lanterns. The rest of the movie is a 40-minute long chase scene with the pumpkins. I wish I was joking, but like literally the whole movie takes place on the road. This is like a Mad Max level chase that goes on. There are a bunch of cars involved and characters, and they are all trying to escape the horde of living pumpkins. In terms of viewing experience, I feel like this drags on a little bit long. Half the movie taking place with like characters just in their own vehicles driving just isn't very engaging. And also, they shouldn't be able to fucking talk to each other. How are they talking to each other when they're all in different cars? That makes no sense. Anyway, at the end of the movie, a hologram begins to play from the giant jack-o'-lantern, with the sheriff revealing that he was behind the whole scheme. He's actually a man named Coulter Toe, the head of Toe Omnitech, who was also behind the mystery of the trash monster of Scranton. After being released from jail, he began to disguise himself as a local sheriff to drive the gang out of business. Hence, he planned the whole scheme so that he could mine the lithium without interference from Mystery Inc. Velma tracks his hologram's location, and the feds start heading towards where he is. Just before his hologram cuts off, Scarecrow jumps on top of his car, ultimately capturing him. Finally, all the pumpkins are deactivated and the gang goes to a Halloween party. A strange mix of Halloween special and weird crossover elements makes this a unique Scooby-Doo film, but the subpar writing and lack of real story kind of lets it down. This is a 4.5 out of 10. This one's going to be like sort of end of C tier, I think.
I got us a sandwich, man.
Scoob is an overpriced, soulless piece of CGI slop, and is an entirely separate canon from every other movie. Scooby-Doo's big return to the silver screen is spoiled by a terrible story and the new gen CGI wave. This looks like it was like animated by Illumination or something. Anyway, onto the plot of the film. The movie starts with a cute flashback about the day Shaggy and Scooby met. I actually don't mind this scene, as it's something I haven't seen so far in a Scooby-Doo movie. It's a decent origin story and an important piece in a film so focused on the pair's friendship. Fast forward a little bit to Halloween night. We see Shaggy and Scooby dressed as Blue Falcon and Dynamite, and bullies steal their candy and throw it into the local trap house. After bullies run away, Shaggy and Scooby meet Fred, Daphne, and Velma, a group of friends who want to make sure they're okay after being picked on. They offer to go into the house to try and get their candy back. As they enter the house, they are confronted by a ghost that pursues them throughout the premises. Amidst the chaos, Velma observes that the ghost is connected to like a moving wire system in the ceiling, and Fred grabs an axe off the wall and cuts it down, and Daphne does nothing. After cutting down the ghost, these three children straight up jump this guy. The five friends, pleased with their achievement in thwarting a crime, decide to continue their pursuit of solving mysteries. One montage later, and the gang are now young adults and seasoned veterans in the meddling business. This far in their careers, the gang are looking to make the Mystery Inc. more professional, and decide that the best way to do that is through the investment of Simon Cowell. This may be the worst cameo in cinema history. Mr. Cowell says that to take Mystery Incorporated to the next level, the group needs to evolve, that Shaggy and Scooby are dead weight and bring no value to the team. After getting flamed like that, Shaggy and Scooby run off to the bowling alley where they are attacked by little robots. This is really where the main plot begins. Obviously, being Scooby's first appearance on the big screen since the live-action James Gunn films, this movie has a much larger sense of scale than any that I have previously talked about. I think in most cases it does well for Scooby-Doo films when it's contained and managed in a way that makes sense for these beloved characters. But this movie just blows it way out of the water. Talks of a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe surrounded the release of this film, and nothing like that ever came to fruition, but you can definitely see the seeds of that in this movie. They throw so many already established characters at you so quickly, it's hard to process everything at once. Like with the MCU, like Iron Man came first, and the audience could just focus on Iron Man and then his story, and then later on it connects. I don't think the studio saw that and just tried to like build it all up in one movie, which clearly didn't work. Because this movie actually, holy shit, oh my god, bro, the budget for Scoob was 90 million, and it made 28.5 million worldwide. That is bad, holy shit. Just as the robots are about to capture Shaggy and Scooby, a beam of light comes from the sky and saves them, being the one and only Blue Falcon. I say one and only, even though literally no one cares about this character. No one is asking for more Blue Falcon content, Warner.
Welcome to the Falcon Fury.
Like, please just realize that there's not a single fan for this superhero out there, like, on Earth. We find out that the little robots were sent by Dick Dastardly, which is what my ex-girlfriends call me. Huh? They were sent to capture Scooby. Realizing that Scooby is an important piece in the puzzle, the Blue Falcon team starts giving him all this affection and all this praise that he must be some sort of answer. Scooby loves all the attention he's getting, however, Shaggy feels left behind, putting a lot of strain on their friendship. Also, during this time, Dick Dastardly captures and imprisons the other members of the Mystery Gang, but it doesn't really matter, and it is pretty irrelevant. Everything culminates at Messick Mountain, where randomly before there's a fight scene with Captain Caveman for some reason. Again, it like doesn't really serve any purpose to the plot, but it's whatever. The gang escape their cell on Dastardly's ship and meet with the Blue Falcon team. However, Dick captures Scooby and destroys the Falcon Fury, leaving the gang hopeless, as he is ready to act out his evil plan. Now, I know we've already gone through a lot, but the movie is nowhere near over yet, so strap in. Dick Dastardly reveals that the reason he needs Scooby-Doo is because he is the last descendant of Alexander the Great's dog, and that he is the key to bringing Dastardly's own canine comrade named Muttley back from the underworld. In Athens, Dastardly forces Scooby's paw onto the gate's lock, unintentionally unlocking it. To his surprise, Cerberus emerges from behind the gate. The beast charges out, causing enough chaos for Scooby to escape and make a run for the mystery machine, finally reuniting with the rest of the gang. Meanwhile, Dastardly ventures into the underworld, where he discovers that Muttley is alive. Overjoyed, the two embrace, grab as much treasure as they can carry, and make a hasty escape from the underworld. A big superhero battle takes place, with everyone coming together to subdue Cerberus. But there's one final obstacle to overcome. To lock the gates of the underworld, Shaggy and Scooby both need to activate the lock, but one of them must do it from the inside, trapping them forever. After fighting over which one sacrifices themselves, finally Shaggy does it, but it's all just bullshit cause a portal appears 2 minutes later and he walks out just fine. Gang's all happy, obligatory dance party scene occurs, and credits. Even if you haven't seen this movie, from my recap alone, you can tell there's a lot going on, and I skipped half of the shit that happens in the movie. Now, apart from my general disdain for this sort of corporate art style, I think the movie's fundamental flaw is jam-packing all of this shit into one 2-hour movie. There are so many references and cameos and ideas introduced that it all just blends into one forgettable cesspool. When you are dealing with some of the most iconic characters in cartoon history and rebooting them, people are going to want a bit of context first. Instead, shows you two flashbacks, then it's just Instead, this movie shows you two flashbacks, then it's just a Hanna-Barbera fuckfest for an hour and 40 minutes with literally zero world building. I must say though, Dick Dastardly is great. I think almost every funny moment in the movie comes from him, so he's definitely a highlight. Like that scene when him and Muttley in the underworld, like that shit actually made me happy, like I can't lie. I like how Shaggy and Scooby's friendship is tested in the first half of the film, but those deeper themes are mostly pushed aside to make room for like dumb kids movie stuff until the end. But yeah, pretty sucky Scoob. 2.5 out of 10. This one is in D tier. Mystery Inc. goes medieval. After discovering Shaggy has ancestry from England, the gang takes a vacation to Country Village to learn more about Shaggy's family history. I'm also curious about the Rogers family tree, because in Shaggy's Showdown a couple of movies ago, it said that his great uncle was Dapper Jack or something, who was an American outlaw. So how did that come from England as well? It's confusing. They uncover that Shaggy is a descendant of the legendary hero who once stopped an attempt by the evil sorceress Morgan Le Fay to seize the throne of Camelot from its rightful ruler, King Arthur. So far, just your run-of-the-mill, understandable Scooby-Doo plot, right? That night, Morgan Le Fay launches an attack on the gang, sending them back in time to the era of King Arthur. Realizing they're now part of the kingdom's unfolding legend, the gang decides to follow the course of history in hopes of finding a way back to their own time. Their plans take an unexpected turn when Shaggy accidentally pulls Excalibur from the stone, unintentionally challenging King Arthur's claim to the throne. However, Arthur reveals that the true heir must be determined in a competition among knights. Shaggy selects Fred to be on his team, while Arthur is backed by the entire Order of the Round Table. Spoiler alert incoming, but the time travel is not real. I'm sorry if that bursts your bubble, but while watching this movie, it's painfully obvious. The competition begins, but the evil witch from before gets major FOMO and crashes the party, paralyzing Fred in the process. Fred, suffering a season-ending injury, has to be subbed out for Daphne. She competes in place for Fred and nearly wins the whole thing, until Morgan Le Fay comes back and kidnaps Shaggy. The gang and King Arthur go to the witch's castle to rescue their friend, but they find out that Shaggy signed away his right to the throne for a banquet. Morgan transforms herself into a dragon in a final attempt to destroy the gang, but they manage to defeat her. Afterward, Velma reveals a shocking truth. Their entire adventure was an elaborate ruse orchestrated by the townspeople. In reality, the gang was never sent back in time. Fearing that Shaggy might try to claim the town as his ancestral right, the townsfolk staged the entire Camelot scenario using an immersive attraction complete with actors and special effects. The goal was to convince the gang that they had travelled through time and ultimately tricked Shaggy into signing over the deed to the town. I can see why people like this movie, as it is a very creative concept for a Scooby-Doo film, but the reveal at the end ruins it for me, because the time travel thing is so brain dead. I would have loved to see the gang go on more of an epic Lord of the Rings type quest, which the movie has some elements of in the third act, but it's not really fleshed out fully. There are plenty of comical characters though, and there are a lot of quirky, funny moments that can come from the gang in that fantasy setting. So yeah, it's definitely not terrible. 6.5 out of 10, C tier.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
I never watched Courage growing up, so I wasn't expecting much, but I was pleasantly surprised. This movie really makes me want to see more Scooby-Doo, Cartoon Network crossovers. Just imagine a Scooby-Doo regular show crossover. That shit would be generational. While in the middle of stopping a bank-robbing clown, Scooby hears a funky noise that causes him to run away, and sometimes compulsively and uncontrollably dance like a drunk uncle at the cookout. Shaggy points out that Scooby never runs away without him, so the gang realizes something must be wrong and chases after Scooby, ending up in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, the backwoods hometown of Courage and his owners, Muriel and Eustace Baig. Courage has been hearing the same noise as Scooby, and they both come to the same place. Unfortunately, they get jumped by a group of big-ass cicadas, but luckily the gang arrives in time to squash the bugs. After the encounter, Muriel tells Shaggy, Scooby, and Courage to go watch some television. Unexpectedly, everyone receives an invitation to dinner at the Mayor of Nowhere's house, pets included. As they prepare for the visit, Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Muriel climb into the mystery machine, while Scooby-Doo, Courage, and Eustace are set to ride in Eustace's truck. However, just as they're about to depart, the Cicada Queen leaps into the driver's seat of the truck and takes off, leaving Eustace behind. With Scooby and Courage trapped inside, the Cicada Queen slams the truck into the back of the mystery machine, sparking a high-speed chase. The pursuit ends in chaos, with Eustace's truck flying off a cliff. Eustace is a D1 hater, and it gives me great joy seeing him complain about everything going on. Everyone finally arrives at the mayor's house, where they're welcomed by Mr. Glockenspiel, who leads them into the parlor. Suddenly, the furniture springs to life and attacks them. They narrowly escape the chaos, only for the mayor to appear and casually explain that it's just the quirks of an old house. During dinner, the gang tries to question the mayor about the strange events happening in Nowhere, but he brushes off their concerns. He invites everyone to explore the museum wing of his mansion. Eustace, Courage, Shaggy, and Scooby stay behind to keep eating. Frustrated with the dead feed, Eustace eventually gives up and just heads home. Meanwhile, the gang get a recap of the history of Nowhere and find some clues about all the wacky things happening. Back at the house, Eustace starts getting random guests at the door who leave behind lots of money and valuables on the doorstep. Eustace rakes in the riches and starts flexing on all these bitches in the song Outta Nowhere.
Well-to-do dude with a 1% freaking nightmare. Like a bank tycoon or the president, see if I can. 'Cause I got more.
The gang, along with Courage and Muriel, return to the Baig farm, quickly noticing something strange. Corn is now growing in the fields, which had previously been barren. Suddenly, the Cicada Queen appears and begins chasing them through the cornfield. A swarm of cicadas descends and abducts everyone, except for Scooby, Shaggy, and Courage. Shaggy delivers a heartfelt speech, saying that true courage isn't about the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Just as he finishes, he's abducted as well. With only the dogs remaining, they discover that there is a dark matter meteorite buried directly below the house. The dark energy has been causing all the strange happenings and controlling the army of cicadas. Scooby-Doo and Courage recover the meteor, but are pursued by a swarm of cicadas along the way. They free their kidnapped friends and fight off the cicadas. Despite their efforts, Muriel is captured by the Cicada Queen, triggering a cave-in. Courage digs himself out from the rubble and rescues Muriel, but the meteor is damaged, transforming the Cicada Queen into a giant. Courage uses the meteor to grow giant and confront her. This was a really cool scene. The kaiju fight that happened at the end, that has to be a top tier climax for a Scooby-Doo movie. That is not bad. You can't complain. This put a smile on my face. That's all I'm gonna say. This made me big happy. Oh, that's so. I'm gonna have to edit that out. Overpowered and nearly defeated, Mariel reverts him to normal size so he can escape with the meteor. In the end, the Cicada Queen is trapped by debris from a windmill she destroyed, and Courage uses the meteor to safely transport everyone. Admittedly, I'm kind of stupid, so I felt like the plot was a bit complicated and intertwined in ways that I couldn't fathom. The movie heavily leans into the uncanny vibe of Courage, which I didn't yet experience before. I have to say personally, I love the Midwest vibe that Courage has going on with everything's abandoned, everything's that. I love that. I think the characters from Courage's side of things and the mystery gang, I think they mesh pretty well, having some pretty comedic interactions throughout the movie. It's all wrapped up in that eerie aesthetic, making this a really solid Scooby-Doo film. 7 out of 10. This is going in B tier.
Always check your candy.
Another Halloween special, but this time it's with a unique art style and a look at the mystery gang through a different lens. While this is technically a standalone film in terms of canon, it shares a lot of the same broad strokes as the original Where Are You, Scooby-Doo, as the movie actually starts by showing them busting a lot of the monsters from that timeline. Mystery Inc. discovers that Catman's costume is made from the same materials as those used in the disguises of the several past villains they've unmasked, like the spooky Space Kook, the ghost of Captain Cutler, and it all traces back to their very first case, the Black Knight. This leads them to starting a revelation. All the costumes were designed by the same person, a skilled designer and criminal mastermind named Coco Diablo. During Halloween, in Coco's costume factory, she's giving a tour to a client in need of a diabolical disguise. She offers him the 10,000 volt ghost for free, but in return, she wants him to take care of Mystery Inc. Plot twist, the client was actually Shaggy and Scooby, and this was an undercover sting operation to put Coco behind bars. Upon meeting the villainess, Velma instantly gains a massive crush on her. Nevertheless, with the imprisonment of the mastermind behind the costumed crime syndicate, peace returns to Coolsville, as criminals no longer have access to the elaborate costumes needed for their schemes. As a result, the gang goes an entire year without any thrilling cases, leaving them to spend their time solving simple and uneventful mysteries. Fred, Daphne and Velma grew depressed by the lack of solving real mysteries, while Shaggy and Scooby enjoyed a much better time relaxing due to the lack of danger. While visiting a local carnival, the gang is suddenly ambushed by a ghostly doppelganger of Fred, who uses powerful blasts to destroy the mystery machine. Suspecting Coco Diablo might be involved, they head to Coolsville Penitentiary to question her. There, they meet Warden Collins, an enthusiastic fan of Mystery Inc., who agrees to let Coco accompany them. Side note, this Warden dude made me laugh out loud multiple times. He just to ensure she doesn't escape, the Warden attaches heart monitors to both Velma and Coco's wrists. The gang then returns to the carnival, riding in their wrecked mystery machine, in search of clues connected to the ghostly attack. The gang discovers a clue in the remains of the carnival booth that leads them to the library, where they research ghostly figures known as the Misery Company, phantoms that eerily resemble each member of Mystery Inc. Suspecting Coco's former assistant Trevor Gloom might be behind the costumes, the gang and Coco visit his shop. When confronted, Trevor admits he sold 4 Victorian-style costumes to Coolsville Penitentiary, matching the style of Misery Company. While everyone is distracted, Coco slips away and breaks off her heart monitor, fleeing to her old factory. With Trevor's help and a catchy montage, the gang rebuilds and redesigns the Mystery Machine into the gloomy Mystery Machine.
Well, it's not what I expected, but it's exactly what I expected.
It is my greatest creation yet.
When the gang arrives at the factory, they manage to trap the ghostly lookalikes by dropping them into an alligator pit, revealing them to be robots. Coco attempts a false confession, but the gang sees through her act and uncovers the true villain, Warden Collins. He orchestrated the entire scheme and is holding Coco's cat Esteban hostage. The gang rushes to the penitentiary and stop Collins, who admits he built and controlled the robots out of boredom after Coco's arrest left them with no new mysteries. Trying to reassure them, he accidentally disables the prison security system, releasing past villains who begin wreaking havoc. To stop the chaos, the gang dons costumes from their previous cases and successfully round up the escaped criminals. Collins is then arrested by the sheriff, and a reluctant Shaggy and Scooby return the stolen candy to trick-or-treaters. I really enjoyed this rendition of the gang. It definitely respects the source material. Unlike other recent Scooby-Doo movies, the animation is a little bit mong though, and it's kind of like Looney Tunesy, kind of wacky to sit through for a whole film. But it's a really well-paced mystery. You can tell it's made for a younger audience, but it's definitely a more outlandish and unique Scooby-Doo, which makes it worth the A tier in my eyes. Scooby-Doo and Krypto 2, last one, let's go. The second major DC crossover, third if you count the Scarecrow in Happy Halloween. Directed by Cecilia Aronovich, the same mind behind 13 Ghosts and Return to Zombie Island. I was a bit nervous that this would be the same quality as those other shithouse movies, and that she would butcher the poor DC universe. And trust me, the DC universe does not need to get fucked up more than it already has been. Yet, what followed was an action-filled mystery with more DC characters than I could count. The movie takes place months after the Justice League goes missing, when Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen head to the Hall of Justice to investigate the mysterious disappearance of the Justice League, but are suddenly attacked and chased out by a phantom. Alarmed, they call Mystery Inc. for help. On their way to Metropolis, the gang discovers the city is in chaos, overrun by villains including Giganta, Solomon Grundy, the Joker, Harley Quinn, General Zod, Non, Ursa, and Brainiac, all taking advantage of the Justice League's absence. After narrowly escaping the villains, the gang meets up with Lois and Jimmy at the Daily Planet, where Jimmy awkwardly refers to Daphne as his girlfriend, much to her annoyance. Once Lois and Jimmy explain the situation, they take the gang on a tour of the Hall of Justice, where they encounter Lex Luthor and his assistant Mercy Graves. Suddenly, the Phantom reappears and threatens the gang, only to be driven off by a mysterious superpowered dog. The dog quickly initiates a lockdown to prevent the Phantom from escaping, trapping the gang inside along with Lex Luthor and his associates. Luthor then introduces the heroic canine as Krypto, Superman's loyal pet dog. Speaking of Superman, I just wanted to say I'm really excited for the new movie. I think it's a little bit of a coincidence. James Gunn did the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. Now he's doing live-action Superman. It looks super vibrant. It looks super like comic booky. Oh my god, I'm just filled with excitement. Shaggy and Scooby raid the kitchen, which ends up being a hyper-futuristic holographic training facility for the Justice League. After malfunctioning the control panel, Shaggy and Scooby are forced to distract the holograms of the Legion of Doom while Krypto fixes the controls. Solomon Grundy infiltrates the Hall of Justice, triggering a frantic chase through the building. During the chaos, the gang stumbles upon holographic footage revealing the exact moment the Justice League vanished. When Grundy suddenly vanishes in a flash of light, the gang realizes there are more phantoms lurking in the hall. Velma pieces the mystery together and uncovers the true culprit, Mercy Graves. She had secretly planned to turn the Hall of Justice into her own supervillain base, betraying Luthor, as she used the Phantom Zone projector to trap the Justice League, which explains the presence of the Phantoms. Just as the gang is about to solve the mystery, Lex Luthor takes over Mercy's plan, revealing he knew all along and used it as a cover for his true goal, conquering Metropolis with a robot army. Lex's dog Rex reveals himself to be a robot and battles Krypto for control of the Phantom Zone projector, while the gang fights off the robots. Despite being weakened by Rex's built-in kryptonite, Krypto manages to win. He uses the projector to trap the robot army and free the Justice League plus Solomon Grundy from the Phantom Zone. This movie moves very, and I mean very quickly. You can call me a DC dick rider, I just don't care. I think this movie was top class. I really enjoyed seeing so many references and DC characters interact with Mystery Inc. The premise allowed for Mystery Inc. to seem important in a universe with literal gods and like people who have like infinite power scaling, right? So that's pretty cool. Bonus points for letting the Justice League aura farm at the end. The twist is a bit predictable, but Lex Luthor makes up for it being one of the funniest characters in any of the movies ever. So this is the final tier list. This video took me so long to edit, and it made me want to kind of kill myself. But if you stayed this long, shit, hey, you might have a little crush on me. Yeah, so consider subscribing, some shit like that. That'll really help me out. Thank you.